Welcome back to Rise Exchange. Forbes magazine is out with its annual Celebrity 100 list, which ranks the highest grossing celebrities and athletes around the world. This year, boxer Floyd Mayweather took the top spot, but how much did he earn? Rise News correspondent Shartia Brantley recently spoke with Forbes senior editor Zack Greenburg.
Zach, thanks again for joining us. I really appreciate you.
Oh, you're welcome.
First off, were there any surprises about this year's list?
Yeah, I think there are a whole bunch. I mean, you know, number one, Floyd Mayweather, not exactly a surprise after the fight of the millennium, but the number, $300 million, is pretty astronomical, and I think more than anybody was expecting, even at Forbes. Moving on down the list, certainly, you know, Katy Perry at $135 million, number three. We all knew she'd do pretty well. $135 million, better than Taylor Swift, better than Beyonce. That's a little unexpected. And the more you go down the list, the more you find people who maybe you haven't heard of who are making money abroad because, you know, that's where they were born or that's where they're famous. Or Bollywood stars or, you know, UK race car drivers that maybe Americans haven't heard of so much, really making tons and tons of money. Actually, 1/3 of the list is foreign-born.
Is that an increase from previous years? I thought that was a very significant number.
Yeah, I mean, so this year for the first time, we only looked at earnings. Before, we would combine earnings with magazine covers and social media and things like that to create sort of a power rank that would, you know, weight earnings heavily, but maybe only about half the weight on earnings. This time we said, all right, we're Forbes. We want to stick to earnings. We want to show you the money. And here's where it is. And part of the reason is because, you know, entertainment is such a global business now. You have people going out, Katy Perry making 60% of her money abroad, you know, playing 75 shows in foreign countries out of 125. We thought it was only fair to kind of level the playing field and just look at the money. So, you know, there are actually as many cricket players as there are baseball players. There are more soccer players than American football players. And you know, and still you have some of the usual suspects, the Rolling Stones, Jerry Seinfeld, people like that as well.
What I found interesting, you wrote a very interesting article on Katy Perry, who's on the cover of the issue. Her exposure to international markets. I want to call it the Katy Perry model. How important it is to be known outside of the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, it's crucial, particularly for musicians these days. You know, if you're a musician and you want to make a lot of money, you have to tour. And now in the worldwide touring market, there are so many more markets that are open that were not open 5, 10, 15 years ago. And even places like China, Indonesia, South America are just starting to get into the kind of territory where they have enough of the population making enough money to pay kind of Western style ticket prices that can support a big arena act like Katy Perry or like the Rolling Stones or something like that.
Let's talk about Katy Perry. She and Taylor Swift were the only two women in the top 10. Only 16 women made the cut of the top 100. What are we doing about gender equity when the whole Sony hack leak came out and it showed that, you know, Jennifer Lawrence and her co-stars are making far less than their counterparts on American Hustle? What is this list showing about the gender pay equity gap in Hollywood?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, that's the negative side. That one of the things that this shows is that if you look at the top 100, right, it's a very small proportion that are females. And, you know, a lot of it in Hollywood, for example, there are fewer roles for females, and then the big starring roles are, I mean, you know, they're just not compensated at the same rate as the Sony hacks kind of, you know, revealed. You know, what do we do about it? I think the first thing is we shine the light on it, and that was one of the things that we were excited about being able to do. You know, it's not a good fact, but it's a fact. And now that, you know, the information is out there even more, you know, perhaps we can start to get some more equity.
Now, looking at the list for this year, the minimum earnings for entry was $29 million. That's a lot of money. Does that mean it was a great year for celebrities, or in years past has the amount been even higher?
Yeah, it's hard to say exactly because under the new methodology, right, we had the $29 million barrier to entry. In previous years, you could still get onto the list if you were, you know, sort of famous enough, if you had enough press, you know, if you had enough magazine covers, if you had enough Twitter followers. And, you know, Lena Dunham, I think, made it last year with, you know, $3 or $4 or $5 million. You know, Kanye West probably would have made it this year. He's probably about 20 million plus or minus. You know, people like that. Rihanna was also just under the $29 million mark. They would have been pushed over the edge by, you know, by their online presence, by their media attention. You know, so it'll be interesting to see. I think next year, you know, does that bar go up or down? I mean, I have a feeling it's just going to kind of keep going up, you know, as fame continues to be a more and more global industry, and you start to see, you know, the Kanye West of China, or the, you know, of India kind of, you know, getting onto the list. More competition, higher salaries, and a higher bar to get onto the list probably next year.
Well, earnings are like your SAT score, right? You don't share it unless you did really well. So do you have a difficult time obtaining this earnings information from these major celebrities and athletes?
A lot of times we do. I mean, you know, with athletes, a lot of the times you can just get their salary. I mean, we all know, for sports fans, you know, how much Alex Rodriguez makes, or, you know, Robinson Cano. It gets a little trickier when you get into the endorsement deals, because those aren't always, you know, revealed, right? You have to dig in, you have to call around. You know, a lot of times the actual people you're writing about won't tell you about it. You have to go kind of back channel and do your homework, do your reporting. You know, certainly with musicians, we get our data from Nielsen for record sales. We get our touring data from Polestar. It's another kind of, you know, universal database. But again, endorsement deals, business ventures, you kind of have to really dig in and get out that Rolodex, or that, you know, iPhone address book, or whatever the case may be, and do the reporting. You know, so we always run our estimates. We give sources a chance to comment. We say, you know, you think we're in the ballpark or not? Sometimes they say, yeah, off the record, you know, but don't tell anybody. Sometimes they say, oh, you know, I made 10 times that, and that's when you kind of got to say, you know, they're trying to puff something up a little bit here. You know, you got to use a little bit of common sense, but. It's a pretty fascinating process to see, you know, certainly how people react, and I think it varies a lot from, you know, sector to sector within entertainment, right? Certain pop stars are not so likely to want to talk about their earnings, but rappers usually like to talk about their earnings. You know, it varies really, and even within genres, you know, you have people who are always wanting to talk about their earnings, and the ones who don't. So it's an adventure.